Have you ever noticed how silence can cut deeper than words? That moment when someone pulls away and suddenly your thoughts won't stop racing, wondering if they ever cared, replaying every message, every pause, every absence. It feels like a storm inside you while they appear calm, distant, untouchable. But here's the truth. Silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's a game, a way to see if you'll break, if you'll chase, if you'll surrender your peace just to get a reaction. The Stoics warned us about this trap long ago. They taught that power doesn't belong to the one who withdraws, but to the one who refuses to be moved by withdrawal. The test isn't whether someone grows cold toward you. The test is whether you can remain steady when they do. This isn't about her. It's about you. Your ability to stand firm, to choose clarity over confusion, dignity over desperation, and silence not as weakness but as discipline. Because the moment you stop reacting, you reclaim what was yours all along, your mind, your time, your respect. So stay with me. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how to outsmart those who try to shake your ground, not through arguments or revenge, but through calm control. Let's begin. Number 1, she expects you to react. Have you ever felt that quiet ache when someone you cared about suddenly shifts their presence? One moment she was warm, consistent, almost predictable in her affection. Then, like a shadow slipping away at dusk, she pulls back. The message is slow, the replies stretch into hours, her laughter becomes rarer. She used to greet you in the morning with words that gave rhythm to your day, and now there is nothing but silence. She once made time for you, and now she is always busy. Yet, somehow, she still lingers on the edges of your life. She watches your stories. She leaves traces of herself just visible enough that you know she is there, alive, shining, enjoying life, without you. And the thought gnaws at you. Why is she showing herself only when she withholds herself from me? Here is the trap. She is waiting. Waiting for the moment your discipline cracks. Waiting for the small slip where you ask, "What's wrong?" or "Did I do something?" She's listening for that sound, the sound of your dependence on her attention. And the instant you give it, she wins, because your reaction is the confirmation she sought all along. You are still under her control. The Stoics warned us about this weakness of the human heart, the urge to cling, to prove, to demand answers from the silence of others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When someone pulls away, the event itself is outside of your control. What remains within your grasp is your response. If you surrender that to desperation, you abandon the very thing that could have steadied you. Consider a man named Adrian. For months, his girlfriend began drifting. At first, it was small, a delayed text here, a vague excuse there. But soon, her distance grew louder than her words. Adrian felt panic swelling in his chest. He checked his phone every few minutes, searching for her name. He replayed every conversation in his head, dissecting each pause, each word, as if hidden meaning lived inside them. One night, unable to bear the silence, he broke. He sent a flood of messages, apologies for things he hadn't done, pleas for clarity, confessions of fear. In that moment, he believed he was saving the connection. In truth, he was ending it. For what she saw was not love, but dependence, not confidence, but fragility. Her test had yielded its result. Now compare this with another man, Daniel. His partner began the same withdrawal, silence, distance, calculated absence. But Daniel, though he felt the ache of uncertainty, remembered the wisdom of Epictetus. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So he chose not to react. He did not chase. He did not beg. He did not over-explain. Instead, he turned inward, investing in his work, his friendships, his health. His silence was not empty. It was full of presence, but presence directed toward himself. When she noticed his lack of pursuit, something stirred within her. Doubt. Suddenly she wondered if she had misjudged him. Had she lost a man of substance? Was he truly moving on? The same silence that once belonged to her now belonged to him, and it was her turn to feel the sting of uncertainty. This is the essence of the test. Most men, when faced with withdrawal, collapse. They interpret silence as loss, and loss as proof they must act. They believe if they don't chase, they will lose her forever. But the paradox is this: by chasing, they lose her instantly. For a woman does not respect a man who cannot withstand her absence. She does not chase the man who crumbles without her. She chases the man who stands steady, unmoved, whole in himself, whether she stays or goes. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And freedom here means this: the courage to let her walk without grasping at her shadow, the bravery to meet silence with silence, not as revenge, but as clarity, to say without words, "I am not defined by your presence, nor destroyed by your absence." When you reach that place, you transform from the man she expected to control into the man she cannot predict. Doubt enters her mind. Did she lose someone rare? Did she mistake his patience for neediness? Did she just walk away from a man she will not easily replace? That doubt unsettles her far more than your pleas ever could. But here lies the final truth. By the time she feels it, the test has already ended, because the man she once toyed with no longer exists. He has been replaced by a man who understands that his worth was never hers to grant or withdraw. You see, the moment you stop reacting, you step into the role of a man no one can control. And that is the one role she never expected you to play. So remember this: when she pulls back, when she expects you to prove your worth with a flurry of words and desperate gestures, resist. Let silence be your discipline. Let patience be your power. Not because you wish to punish, but because you refuse to betray yourself. And as you master this, you'll find the truth the Stoics always knew. Dignity is not negotiated. It is guarded. And that, my friend, is the first step. Because once you stop giving her the reaction she craves, you open the door to the deeper game, the game where control is no longer in her hands, but firmly in yours. Let's move forward. Number 2, your silence breaks her control. Have you ever noticed how silence can feel heavier than words? It presses against you, it unsettles you, it forces you to sit with yourself in ways that noise never does. This is why people fear being alone. It's why they fill their hours with endless scrolling, constant distractions, and background chatter that numbs the inner dialogue they don't want to face. Silence exposes truth. And that is why, when you stop reacting, when you stop chasing, when you stop feeding her the validation she expected, the balance of power shifts. You have handed her something far more frightening than anger. You have handed her silence. At first, she believed she knew the outcome. She pulled away, expecting you to follow. She imagined you staring at your phone, rereading her old messages, wondering where you went wrong. She thought her distance would trigger your pursuit, the way absence so often does. But when your silence lingers, when the message never comes, something unexpected happens. The weight she thought you would carry now falls on her. She checks her phone more than you do. She scrolls through your old conversations, not with confidence, but with doubt. She replays the last exchange, searching for the exact moment she lost her grip. And while she may post pictures with friends, laugh loudly in public, or even parade another man across her social feed, all of it masks the one question pressing against her chest. Why hasn't he reacted? The Stoics knew this truth well. Control is an illusion, especially when it depends on the reactions of others. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest power is often simple self-control." And in this case, that control is silence. By withholding what she expects, your desperate reply, your attempt to fix things, you unravel the very strings she thought bound you. Now, she is the one waiting. She feels the same tension that once belonged to you, the ache of anticipation, the gnawing uncertainty when the other person does not move. Silence turns the mirror around. Imagine this through a simple story. A man named Julian loved deeply, perhaps too deeply. His girlfriend began withdrawing, growing colder each day. At first, Julian felt panic. He reached for his phone, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to type something, anything that would draw her back. But then he remembered the wisdom he once read from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. So he put the phone down. Hours passed, days passed. She expected his words to come, but none arrived. At first she laughed to her friends, claiming he must be sulking, but as silence stretched, her laughter dimmed. She began to check more often. She began to wonder. She sent a casual message, vague and safe. "Hope you're doing well." Julian saw it. He felt the pull. But he did not respond, because he knew that the message was not about reconciliation, it was about her ego. She wanted proof that she could still summon him with the flick of a finger. When no reply came, the control she thought she had dissolved, and she felt the very powerlessness she once inflicted on him. Here lies the most dangerous test, and the one where most men fail. When she finally sends that casual text, many men light up as if the sun itself returned. They reply instantly, thinking this is the moment she realized her mistake, the chance to rebuild what was broken. But the moment their quick response appears, she knows. She knows she still owns them. And just like that, she disappears again. Not because she wanted them, but because she needed to know they were still waiting. Her message was not a bridge back to love. It was a mirror held up to her ego, and once she saw her reflection, she had no further use for them. This is why the strongest response is no response at all. Silence, held with composure, is the only language that unsettles those who play with power. If she truly wants to return, she will not come cloaked in vagueness. She will not send the lazy hope you're good. She will not dangle half-hearted gestures. She will make it unmistakable. She will show remorse. She will express regret. She will move with clarity rather than ambiguity. Anything less is not a return, it is bait. And when you no longer take the bait, you free yourself from the cycle. But here is the beauty of the path you now walk. By the time she truly begins to feel the loss, by the time she questions whether she misjudged you, you will already have moved on. Because silence is not just a tactic against her, it is a practice for yourself. It is the space where you redirect your energy from needing validation to building your own value. It is the discipline of Epictetus lived out in modern life. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. You chose not to respond to her games. Instead, you responded to your own calling, to grow, to strengthen, to rebuild your confidence without depending on her presence. By the time she turns around, eager to reclaim what she once dismissed, she finds that man is gone. The man who waited, who panicked, who crumbled under silence, he no longer exists. In his place stands someone she cannot manipulate, someone she cannot easily reach. And that, more than anything else, is what breaks her control. For she is no longer chasing a man she can bend. She is chasing a ghost, an image of the man she thought she had, only to realize he has already ascended beyond her reach. So let your silence be more than just absence. Let it be presence. Presence in your own life, presence in your own growth, presence in your own dignity. When you refuse to play the game itself collapses. And when you no longer need her validation, you discover the freedom the Stoics spoke of. A freedom not from love, but from the chains of dependency. That is the kind of strength no one can take from you. And as we step deeper, we see that silence is not just a weapon, it is a teacher. It teaches patience, self-respect, and clarity. It shows you who truly values you and who only values the control they hold over you. And once you understand this lesson, you're ready for the next truth. That real power does not come from what you withhold, but from what you choose to give, and to whom. Number 3. She will start to doubt herself. Have you ever noticed how quickly certainty can turn into doubt? One day, she believed she had all the time in the world. In her mind, you were fixed in place, orbiting around her like the moon around the earth, always present, always predictable, always ready to rush back at the slightest signal. She convinced herself that no matter how many times she ignored you, no matter how many little tests she threw in your path, you would still be there. And now, with your silence, that belief begins to fracture. At first, it is only a whisper in her thoughts, a flicker of curiosity. Why hasn't he reached out? But whispers have a way of growing louder when the silence does not break. Curiosity hardens into unease. Has he moved on? Unease swells into tension. Was I wrong about him? And then comes the final, most unsettling form of doubt. Fear. Fear that she miscalculated. Fear that she assumed too much. Fear that she has lost the control she thought was hers to keep. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And now, in her thoughts, happiness falters because the quality of those thoughts is poisoned by doubt. Think of it like a cliffhanger in a story, a film that ends mid-scene, a message that cuts off before the answer, a silence that refuses to explain itself. The mind cannot stand unanswered questions. It circles back again and again, searching for resolution. This is exactly what happens when you remain silent. She cannot help but wonder. She checks your social media, not once, but obsessively. She studies your posts, your photos, the energy you're projecting into the world. She might not click like, but her eyes are watching. She might not text you, but her mind is consumed with questions. And the longer you resist breaking the silence, the deeper those questions carve into her confidence. I once heard a story of a man named Elias. His girlfriend grew cold, confident he would always chase. She ignored him for weeks, showing off her independence, laughing with her friends about how he would eventually fold. But Elias didn't fold. He didn't chase. He poured his energy into himself, into his work, his health, his growth. Weeks later, she confessed to a friend, "I don't understand it. He was supposed to come back. They all come back." That confession was born not of strength, but of doubt. The same doubt that begins to undo her pride the moment your silence outlasts her expectations. The Stoics taught that the unknown is one of life's most powerful forces. Epictetus reminded us, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." And in her judgments, your silence is no longer absence, it is a mystery, and mysteries gnaw at the soul. She begins to ask her friends for reassurance. The same friends who once told her, "He'll be back," they always come back, now hesitate, because even they can see what she cannot ignore. You are not coming back. And in that realization, her certainty dissolves. What happens next is subtle. She begins to probe the silence, testing the waters. A like on an old photo. A casual text that reads, "Hey, how have you been?" Maybe even a message she pretends was sent by mistake, but none of these are confessions of regret. They are crumbs, breadcrumbs, tossed to see if you are still following the trail. And this is where weak men fail. They pounce on those crumbs, believing they are signs of love reborn. They reply instantly, their hearts racing with hope. But the moment they do, she knows. She knows she still has access. She still has power. She still has control. And once she knows, she no longer needs to pursue. She vanishes again, leaving him emptier than before. You must understand this. Curiosity is not commitment. Watching is not chasing. A vague message is not an apology. A breadcrumb is not a meal. A woman who truly regrets losing you does not whisper, she declares. She does not send a vague, "Hey." She admits, "I made a mistake." She does not just view your stories. She tells you she misses you. She does not sit back and wait for you to reply. She fights for your attention. Anything less is not return, it is ego. This is why your silence must remain unbroken, because silence keeps her questioning, and questioning keeps you free. The longer she wonders, the clearer it becomes that her control has slipped away, and while she doubts, you are no longer waiting, you are building. While she is busy replaying the past, you are investing in the future. While she is consumed with what she might have lost, you are becoming someone she can no longer reach. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Do not waste yours on someone who only measures your worth by how much control they hold over you. And here is the irony she will never admit. Her greatest regret will not just be losing you, it will be losing the man you became because of her absence. She took you for granted, assuming you were like every man before you. But while she was doubting, you were transforming. You were training, creating, living, becoming untouchable. By the time she gathers the courage to confess, by the time she's ready to admit the truth she once denied, it will be too late, because the man she doubted has evolved into the man she can no longer claim. So hold the silence. Let it do its work, not out of cruelty, but out of strength. And while it does, let her doubt free you from the illusion that her validation ever defined you. If you felt this message, let me know in the comments with just one word: doubt. And if you're ready to continue walking this path of clarity, subscribe now, because the next truth we uncover will show you not only how to withstand her tests, but how to rise above them completely. Number 4. When she tries to pull you back. Have you ever noticed how people panic when they realize something they assumed was permanent is suddenly gone? It is like reaching for a familiar step in the dark and finding nothing but air. That sinking feeling comes not from the fall itself, but from the realization that the ground they trusted is no longer beneath them. This is exactly what happens when your silence stretches longer than she ever expected. She was sure she had control. She believed she could pull back, create distance, and you would be the one scrambling to fix things, desperate to prove your place. But something happened that was not part of her plan. You vanished. And it shakes her in ways she did not anticipate. because nothing unsettles the human mind more than uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Yet most people do not delight in change. They resist it. They fear it. They fight it. When she feels the absence of your attention, she does not see it as change. She feels it as loss. And loss, even if it is only the loss of control, forces her into panic. But pride does not let her confess this. She will not send a long message of regret. She will not call you to admit she made a mistake. That would mean surrendering power, and surrender is the one thing she refuses to give. So instead, she tests. At first, it is subtle. A glance at your story, a like on a photo you posted months ago, maybe a short message wrapped in safety. "Hope you're doing well," or "just saw something that reminded me of you." She pretends it is casual, but underneath it, she is searching for one answer. Do you still care? The weak man falls here. His heart leaps, his fingers move before his mind does, and he replies instantly, convinced this is the moment she realizes her mistake. But the moment she sees that quick response, she knows the truth. She never truly lost him. He was always waiting. And once she knows that, her curiosity ends. The test is complete. She disappears again because it was never about missing him. It was about proving her power remained intact. But if you resist, if you read her message and leave it unanswered, if you refuse to chase crumbs, then the real panic begins. Now she has no answer. Now she cannot measure your mind. Now she feels what you once felt, uncertainty, and uncertainty, left unresolved, grows into fear. So she tries again. This time, the bait is heavier. Perhaps she writes something longer, weaving in a memory she knows will strike your emotions. Perhaps she posts something online, carefully designed to provoke a reaction. She might even involve other men, hoping jealousy will pull you back into the game. Each act is not love, it is strategy. Each gesture is not reconciliation, it is a desperate attempt to see if you will break. Epictetus once warned, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." She's not disturbed by you. She's disturbed by the idea that you no longer revolve around her. Her judgment tells her she has lost her grip, and that thought unsettles her more than your silence ever could. And here is where you win, by not giving her the confirmation she craves. By refusing to respond, you prove the one thing she did not prepare for, that her pride, her ego, her games no longer have a hold on you. Imagine this through the story of Adrian. His ex reached out weeks after she had left him in silence. At first, it was a vague text. "Hey, hope you're okay." Adrian felt the familiar rush, the part of him that longed to believe she'd come back for love. But he stopped. He remembered the pain of her distance, the countless nights he had spent waiting for her reply. He remembered the power she once held over his emotions. So instead of responding, he remained silent. Days later, another message arrived, longer this time, weaving nostalgia into every line. Still, he did not reply. Then came the posts, carefully chosen photos, little phrases, all designed to draw him back. But Adrian held firm. Weeks later, when she finally reached out with a clear, unmistakable confession, "I made a mistake. I don't want to lose you." Adrian looked at the message and realized something profound. He no longer needed it, because in the silence, he had found himself again. This is the turning point, because the truth is harsh but liberating. If she was never truly invested in you, she will not fight when silence removes her power. She will drift away for good because her attachment was never to you. It was to the control she had over you. But if she truly regrets losing you, she will not hide behind breadcrumbs or vague gestures. She will show up directly, clearly, without games. She will set aside her pride and fight for your attention in the way you once fought for hers. And when that moment comes, the power belongs entirely to you. You decide whether she's worth letting back in. You decide if she has earned another chance. You decide if she deserves a place in the life you have built without her. By then, you may find you no longer want her at all, because while she was playing games, you were growing. While she was testing, you were transforming. And by the time she finally sees what she lost, the man she once knew will already be gone. What remains is someone stronger, wiser, and untouchable, not because he won her back, but because he no longer needs to. That is what true power looks like. That is what self-respect feels like. And that is why, long after the silence has passed, she will never forget you. Number 5. Mastering emotional detachment. Have you ever sat alone, staring at your phone, feeling that restless urge to reach out, just to feel seen, just to feel like you matter? That ache in your chest, that storm in your head, it is the very proof that you've handed your peace into someone else's keeping. And the moment you do that, you are no longer free. Because freedom begins the instant you let go of the need for approval, the instant you stop chasing, the instant you no longer live to convince someone of your worth. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the difference between a man who steers his own ship and one who drifts wherever the tides of another's emotions carry him. The Stoics knew this truth better than anyone. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And bravery in this sense is not about standing against armies or conquering nations. It is about daring to stand apart from the need for validation. It is about refusing to let another person's silence dictate your worth. When you master detachment, everything changes. The man who once lived in reaction becomes the man who sets the terms. The man who once waited anxiously for replies now builds his life without needing them. The man who once wondered, "What did I do wrong?" discovers that nothing was wrong at all except his belief that another human being could ever determine his value. Think of a man named David. For months, he tethered his happiness to the attention of a woman who grew colder each day. When she pulled back, his world collapsed. He spent nights pacing, replaying conversations, analyzing pauses in her messages, trying to find the flaw in himself that must have driven her away. But one morning, after a night of no sleep, David looked in the mirror and saw not a man unworthy of love, but a man enslaved to someone else's opinion. That was the day he let go. He stopped chasing. He stopped begging for explanations. He redirected his focus into his own body, his own craft, his own growth. Weeks later, she reached out, curious why the man she thought she owned had disappeared. But by then, David had no interest. For in detachment, he had found something far greater than her attention. He had found freedom. This is what most men never understand. They believe strength is in holding tighter, in convincing, in proving, in pulling someone back who is already walking away. But that is not strength. That is desperation, disguised as loyalty. Real strength is walking away without anger, without resentment, without the need to make her see your worth. Real strength is looking into the emptiness and realizing it cannot harm you because you no longer need what you once thought you could not live without. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The same truth applies here. A man who wants little from others is a man who possesses everything within himself. Detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means your feelings no longer rule you. It means you can love without losing yourself. You can give without expecting return. You can let go without collapsing. That is the highest form of power. And here is the paradox. When you no longer need her, that is when she feels your absence most deeply. Women do not chase men who are desperate for them. They chase men who do not need them, because those men are rare. The man who begs, the man who pleads, the man who sends late-night texts hoping for crumbs, he is forgotten. But the man who walked away without looking back, he lives in her mind long after. He becomes the standard she measures others against, the shadow she cannot outrun. The question she asks herself in quiet moments, what if I had not let him go? But by the time she asks, you are already gone. Because detachment was never about winning her back. It was about freeing yourself. It was about proving to your own soul that you do not need her to be whole. Most men spend their lives in chains they never see, chains of validation, chains of approval, chains of needing someone to tell them they are enough. But when you cut those chains, when you stand before the world, knowing you carry within yourself everything you need, the world shifts. People respect you differently. They look at you not as another option, but as a choice, and you no longer waste your days waiting for someone to decide your value. Picture walking into a room with that kind of energy. You are not loud, you are not seeking attention, but the room notices, because the man who does not need attention is the one who receives it. The man who is calm, grounded, detached from games, he controls every space he enters, not by force, but by presence. That is what mastery of detachment looks like. It spills into every area of your life. In friendships, people value you because they sense you cannot be manipulated. In business, others respect you because they know you cannot be baited into emotional traps. In relationships, your steadiness creates desire because strength and certainty are irresistible. Detachment, then, is not just about her. It is about everything. It is about the way you carry yourself in a world full of noise and neediness. It is about living with an inner calm that no withdrawal, no rejection, no silence can shake. It is about becoming untouchable, not because nothing can touch you, but because nothing can control you. And that is why the man who masters emotional detachment is free. He does not waste his life chasing. He does not waste his nights overthinking. He does not beg for scraps of attention. He builds, he grows, he leads, he commands respect without asking for it. He is no longer defined by what he lost, but by what he chose to become. And that man, the man who walked away whole, is the one she will never forget. This was never only about relationships. It was about something far greater, the power to walk away with dignity, the power to master your emotions instead of being mastered by them, the power to live without waiting for anyone's approval. Most will never claim that power. They will remain trapped in cycles of doubt and reaction. But the moment you choose detachment, the moment you realize you already carry worth within you, everything changes. By the time she regrets losing you, you will have moved so far ahead that her opinion no longer matters. That is the true victory. If this spoke to you, let it remind you to subscribe so you never stop building that strength within. And in the comments, write only 2 words. Stay untouchable. Carry this with you and step into the next chapter ready for more wisdom that will sharpen your life.